So today we're talking about the A major chord in open position. And it's a great sounding chord. It's a really wonderful sound because you've got the open A string, which is basically concert pitch. You know, this is concert pitch A at 440 cycles per second across the globe. So we all tune to this note. This note is important to know. So when we start strumming the chord, before we really start managing the entire chord, we find that we have to remember, how to get to the chord. So this is sort of like the classic fingering. We're going to talk a little bit about lazy A later on, but for now, this is the classic fingering, and it's a little bit difficult for me to do it because I have fat fingers. But if I can do it, you can do it. So we're going to shingle these fingers onto the A string, and we're not really going to, I guess we're going to smush them. There's not a whole lot of, I guess it gets comfortable the more we do this particular chord shape. And, if you were a folk singer in the village, or if you were, playing alongside Pete Seeger, or, a lot of people play the chord this way. I don't prefer it this way, but this is a great way to learn it because then we can access other benefits that we cannot by playing the lazy A, which is coming up a little later. So A, 2, 3, 4. We're just going to do a quick strum pattern, but we're also going to remember that we're still learning the chord. So once we plug finger 1 in and finger 2 in and finger 3 in, once we get all the fingers there, we have to remember to try to take a look at the thumb. I know it's really easy to get the thumb comfortable, but if your thumb is hooking up over the bottom of the neck like this, I guess it worked for Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, and Jimi Hendrix, and a lot of those people that we grew up listening to. But for now, I'm going to recommend that we keep the thumb on the back of the guitar neck just to develop a good reference point of guitar posture. So we've got this down, 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 down. We're still learning the chords, so why don't we just take it apart again, and you notice my thumb comes right up over the top of the guitar, which is, it's not really supposed to do, but it's, you clearly have learned some bad technique. And that's okay, because I'm a popular guitarist, and I do a little bit of classical guitar, but I'm definitely not an accomplished classical guitar player. And what I mean by accomplished classical guitar player is, there was a famous guitarist, classical guitarist, he was, it'll come to me, but he was still learning new sounds, even into his 90th year on the guitar. He was still learning new things about the guitar, which is exciting for us because this little idea of learning one chord, squeezing it, we're applying the pressure on the chord, strumming it, and then releasing the chord. We can feel our left hands definitely get a workout doing this, right? So from here, we're just going to pluck the bass note and put it into a time like a continuum. And right now we're focusing on 60 beats per minute. How many 100,000 seconds do we have in an 80-year lifespan? And I've grown a company. This is sort of my go-to fingering, and I've seen some of my students play it this way and they love it. I've seen some other professionals play it this way, and some are both, you know, whatever's comfortable for us, right? At the moment, I always try to imagine where are my fingers going, and where do they come from? Isn't, you know, that's sort of in the past, but where are my fingers going? So right now, if I'm going to use like an A sus2, I could just remove my third finger. Let's try playing a bass note and then the chord. Let's try plucking the bass note and then the chord, and see what kind of pattern we can come up with. How clear we can get it. Do we have the pinky? I had this question asked the other day. Is it better to rest the pinky on the guitar top as a point of stability or not? I think if I wanted to move around the guitar, I understand wanting to have a surgical approach. Maybe what we're doing is what we're trying to do is have a really stabilized right hand so we can do some really fine pick work, you know, or counter cross picking work. Let's see, my back's not totally stretched out yet, but let's remember good posture and good breath. That's important when we're warming up. We can use that pinky to mount our hand, secure our hand to the surface of the guitar. Every time I want to move my right hand, though, and I've had it explained this way to me, and I'll share this with you. So if I have my finger stuck here, that's exactly what's happening. I'm sort of stuck. We're stuck here. And I have to lift up, move over, and then come in and remount again. And that takes time. That kind of things takes time. If we wanted to just sort of learn from the beginning that the elbow, you know, I'm thinking about halfway between the elbow and the wrist here, like right over, you know, somewhere in here, somewhere, cut it in half, and place that forearm right there on the top of the bout of the guitar. And you can see this guitar has a little cutout, and is one of the first guys doing this kind of thing, I think. To my knowledge, anyway, they did a really great job on it because it really feels like it's part of you. It really feels comfortable, you know. So we've got this nice right arm. Our whole forearm is still sort of mounted. I know where the low E string is. I know where the high E string is. And I'm not too worried about whether I'm going to learn the boundaries of the string set, because as long as I keep playing the guitar, all of that will come naturally. It's not anything that we learn overnight, unfortunately, but fortunate for us, it is a fun thing to explore, okay? So we're just going to look at, you'll see me do other things, but for now, we'll just try to focus on mounting that right arm on the top of the bout of the guitar. And we can create a nice bass note and chord strum pattern. Right now we're strumming the A sus2, it sounds like. But I'm also going to want to use, you know, the last three fingers of this left hand, or the picking, well, we'll call it the fretting hand, because if you're a lefty, then everything's different. So the fretting hand it's a good idea to use the last three fingers so that we can learn how to play each chord multiple different ways, a multitude of ways. And I might want to play this chord with the last three fingers instead of the first three fingers, because I might be, you know, maybe I'm going up on the fretboard. And I wanted to, maybe I don't want to leave the open string there. Maybe I want to take that open string along with me. Up one fret, first finger, or the A string comes up one fret. And you can see if I can do it, you can do it. But that is quite a stretch between the first finger and the second finger on the fretting hand in order to get that barre chord. But if I can do it, you can do it. It's not my favorite way to do it. We'll talk about that a little later. I just don't want to introduce you immediately to shortcuts. That's not how I want this relationship with the guitar to begin for myself, and I'm sure that's not how you want the guitar to begin for yourself. I want to look at it and really observe it for what it can do. Now I want to play a sus4, so I'm going to have to shift my fourth finger up to fret 3 on the B string. And then I tuck it back in when I want to resolve back to the A chord. And right now my finger's not mounted on the top of the guitar. And so I'm slowly becoming more and more comfortable with the range of the guitar. Oh, my muscles, large muscles, are memorizing where that A string is. And this comes with repetition, of course. So we could, because we have this really nice A chord, we found that we can move it up to position or fret number 3, move it up 1 fret, but what if we moved up to fret 4? It sounds really cool. And you can just imagine all of these melodies happening here on each different place, because they're all different harmonic experiences. This is a whole different scale than we would use here. Or maybe it's just one large master scale, but it's definitely a different sound. It causes us to feel differently, it causes us to respond differently musically. What if we moved up to, let's see, fret 6? That's pretty cool, huh? Maybe you could figure out a use for it in one of your songs. This is sort of like a D chord over an A note in the bass. So that sounds pretty good. This is a little dissonant, but it's functional. We use it for something. This is an E note or an E chord with an A string in the bass. Most of the chords, most of the songs that I've studied about modality in the guitar, about modes, about playing modally, all of those songs are pretty much, most of them were just basically an A, because you had this really nice A drone. Reminds me sort of like the Mahavishnu Orchestra, right? So let's see. Are still pretty cold, but what I'll do is let's do this. Let's do a quick stretch here. Just get that, just a straight elbow up here for 5 seconds. It's usually 30 seconds, but I'm not going to bore you with all of that stuff today. But I just want to model it for you once. At about this point in the practice, in the day, in the guitar day, we definitely want to start practicing physical health. So it's just a quick, let's not put micro tears in the tendons and tissues, but let's get a good stretch in. And give it a good shake and a good breath and sort of reset at this point in the practice session, because I feel like we're moving along. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the lazy A. And why, a lot of us, you see my thumbs kind of sticking over the top of the guitar neck, and maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe for this introduction, maybe we start with good technique. Just to know we can do it, right? So I could do this D sus or the A with the D note in it, so it would be A sus4 fairly easily, right? And then I can resolve that pretty easily. Okay, but then I also have access, because I've got this finger on position 2 effectively. We can reach up to the 5th fret with 4th finger. Really extending the sound of the A5 chord. And if you want, since you're here already, maybe we can just reposition the 4th finger a little bit to lay over the top 2 strings on position on fret 5. And we have that full-blown like A5 power chord. So A, E, A, E, A. And if we played the open low E string, I don't see why we wouldn't. Really fat sound, really loving sound. Yeah, cool stuff. So we have that A. Now we can control the right hand a little bit more. I'm thinking a little bit less about my left hand, and then I'm focusing. People say I'm no good. Day. So you know the song, and all I'm doing is I'm really focusing on creating an alternating bass note or bass line, which is the root and the 5th of the key of A. So we got 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, and it's so much fun to play. It's a little tough to just sit there and watch on the screen if you're not playing along. So I hope you're definitely playing along. I've got to remember to start this earlier to invite you to bring your guitar along with you during these sessions, because they're specifically designed for you to play along. And if you like, some don't want to, and that's fine. Some feel like it's a little too fast, like we can't keep up. Been there, done that. But we just learn how to push through it. Just start, capture some of these ideas. You can model these ideas, rewatch certain sections, and then, or just mark the time code. Maybe I can do that for you. But we're really just working on finding the sections that we want to learn offline, practicing them, getting them up to 60 beats per minute, and you know that once you can play something 60 beats per minute, then you can jump on any of these videos, any of these chord rabbit holes. All right? So we've got that option now to play these other finger patterns. We've got an alternating bass pattern, which we just did, and then we had a walk up, which is very interesting on the acoustic guitar especially, because we've got the A string, open low E string, fret 2 on the E string, and then walking up to fret 4, and then back up to open A to complete the cycle of going from A, going away from A, and then coming back to A, right? So if you know solfege, you know what I just did there with my left hand, my fretting hand. So we have... So let's take a run through this A major scale. I'm still thinking about the video we did the other day on New Year's Eve. Okay, so we have that nice A major scale. So 1, 2, 3, and we need to think about going back to open position, because we're going to need to grab fret number 1 on the G string. And anytime we reach a root note, we stop there and start again. And we can't reach that A note unless we have a shift or a 4th finger stretch, but we're not going to do that today. So we don't have to stop there. We don't have an upper octave on this scale. So D, A moves down to F, G sharp, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, and then B, and then A. Oh, and then we could play, because we're playing the A major scale, we could play the A major 7 chord there, couldn't we? And that sounds like some other things that, you know, I'm thinking Gordon Lightfoot, I'm thinking, man, so many guitar sounds associated with this so many musical sounds associated with this A major 7 chord. It's just, but anyway, we're going through this E major scale, and I'm really trying to be mindful of good quality right hand or picking hand tone production. I don't play an A very much, right? So it's kind of like to do these patterns cleanly, you know, in a clean way is challenging for me. You know, for open position, for A, I'm quickly out of that A because I've got this other A right here. It's sort of like position 5 with an open A string, and you can create these really nice suspended sounds or added 2s or added 9s because we've got a root or another root here, a 3, a 9, and then a 5 on the top, and then a low E string if we wanted to get that going too, you know. But we've got that nice, we don't typically strum this one. We'll typically like finger pick it or just run a forward roll for now, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's getting pretty quick, so let's do eighth notes, right? 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and T and 4. And you notice my right hand can start, if I don't have my pinky situated here and locked off on the guitar, two benefits. The guitar top gets to ring to its full potential, right? I'm not stopping or dampening any more vibration on the top, which in turn goes through the sides to the back of the guitar. You know, so there are a lot of things that we free up by just removing that right hand or that picking hand from the surface of the guitar. And we still can maintain that, you know, that feeling of an anchored nature by, you know, keeping that forearm resting on the top of the guitar anyway, right? But we have this really beautiful forward cascading sound, even forward roll, just a really simple sweeping pick technique, I guess you'd call it. It's just sweeping over the strings. It's not quite a strum, you know, it's or glissade or whatever. It's sort of like if you had your mountaineering boots on and you were in Tuckerman's Ravine in New Hampshire in Mount Washington in May, late May. The snow has all metamorphosed to, there's still snow, for sure, you can ski in there, but a lot of it is metamorphosed into like little tiny roller bearings, ice roller bearings. And if you angle your boots just right, and you're in the head wall, you can glissade your whole way down and out of that big bowl. And I, you know, it's sort of very similar feeling to this. So you have this really nice downstroke. It's not quite a strum, you know, it's a little bit more controlled than a strum, but we can gain access to that really highly evolved technique by becoming more familiar, increasingly familiar with this even more difficult technique of 1 and 2 and just we're doing these rest strokes, falling forward through the guitar, the A chord, the A add 9 chord actually, because we're using basically the A on position 5 minus the first finger. So now we can go back here and find another inversion of A up here and refresh ourselves, because now if we take a finger off, we've got a G in there. Oh, it's sort of starting to sound a little funky, you know, with that dominant sound. I've never played this before. The idea, you know, could be a song, right? And this is, you know, how I write a lot of stuff. You can see that just knowing this little bit of arpeggiation or chordal spelling, you know, we've got an A chord with an E and an A and a C sharp, and then an A and a C sharp and an E, and then a C sharp, an E and an A. Just knowing how to spell that triad out, that A triad out across the guitar neck really helps. You know, our 5, 1, 3, right? So I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth degree of this A scale. So that's 5, 6, 7, or 5, 6, 7, 1, and we're back to the 1, and then the 2, and then 3, right? So this is really, and then a 6, and then let's see, we can add a 6, and then a 7, then we're back to the 1 again. So we could actually work through the entire major scale, A major scale, while we're inverting our way through these beautiful triads. So there's a lot of different stuff. I don't know if that's sugar magnolia or something like that. So we've got all kinds of stuff that we can pull from just from that A chord. And of course we can use the top 3 strings to invert the chord and then do all of that stuff. And then, you know, if we're going all the way up, we may as well come all the way back down because that's important to us. There's so much more to talk about. And I don't want to get these sessions too long, but I just want to end up with, I just want to review really quickly what we talked about. We talked about the A chord, starting with the classical position, you know, sort of more classical fingering. And we also used that same idea of shingling the fingers all onto the same 2nd fret. But we also learned that we can use a bar chord. So we're barring, or we're basically moving this to first capo, right? If I had a capo, an imaginary capo, this thing over fret number 1, that would be capo 1. So, or fret number or position number 1 in our case, right? So we've got this B. You know, we gain access to all of these chords, this chord shape across the neck, and then we actually by parallel planing, right? Whatever, and then we get this nice. Extend the 2nd position thing going on when we add that lazy A to our sort of left hand or fret hand repertoire. And then we had that A5. Let's do this up to tempo. We've got to finger pick this a little bit, I think. We could go through, you know, this finger picking thing too. This is a great place to learn this. Just if you don't know anything about this kind of picking yet, welcome. But if you do, we can just kind of use the thumb as an alternating bass note, bass line, to a descending scale pattern on the top, and then an ascending scale pattern on the top. It's hard to do it in a clear manner. But that's some fun stuff to really get under both fingers, both hands. So we did all of that stuff. We talked about inverting the lazy A across the guitar neck so we could get some other benefits. We did this, and then the A on the basically top 3 strings with the same thing on the top 3 strings. And then we got to this point where I wanted to invite you to continue playing your guitar every day. And if you have questions, specific questions you'd like to ask us in the comments, don't hesitate. We're here together, playing guitar together, and I've noticed that we've been getting, you know, a few more likes here and there, and I definitely appreciate it. And I want to be sure that we're really going in the right direction. So if I start going way out in left field, just get the poll out there and then, you know, reel me in through the comments and say, hey, dude, we were going in this direction. Where's that? What's happening? So don't hesitate to let us know what's going on. And we'll do our best to continue bringing you quality material to add to your repertoire in your daily practice. So until we meet again, happy picking.